Journey to God's House, chapter 34, entitled Epilogue. I'm just going to read this chapter to end this book. When I returned home from God's house, I was more lost and in need than when I went in. I returned shell-shocked, somewhat like a war veteran. I found out later that this condition was not the least bit unusual for ex-Bethelites. Many left homes as heroes, but came back as zeros. Their journey to find where God lives was over, and they had nothing to replace it with. For years, I held back many of these experiences inside, telling few people about them. I figured that the fault must have been mine. This is not unlike abused women or children who blame themselves for the things the abuser does to them. When you love and trust someone and then they hurt you, well, you justify it by taking on at least part of the blame. The alternative was to admit that many aspects of the religion of my youth was wrong, and that I had appeared to waste my time trying to please those who couldn't be satisfied with any amount of sacrifice I made. I just couldn't face that, even in the light of everything I experienced and knew in my gut to be true. Deep down inside, I knew I was not worshiping to please men. My worship was intended to please God. Still, the men and women on earth were the only physical anchor I had to gauge the success and value of my worship. As a child, how could I begin to gauge it otherwise? Every child needs approval from his parents for the same reason, and it's just natural because with youth goes insecurity. We all need approval from men, even as adults, and even if we are in the end worshiping God. When you don't get that approval, you begin to reason, what's the use of even trying to be good? It took me many more years to finally decide that I just could not bear being a Jehovah's Witness any longer, as direct quotes from Jesus Christ rang in my head over and over. Do not judge, or you will be judged by the same judgment. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Matthew 7:1 and 2. By this, all men will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. John 13:35. Also, the words of the Apostle Paul rang in my ears as well. If I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and knowledge, and if I have faith that I can move mountains but do not have love, I am nothing. 1 Corinthians 13:2. After decades of being one, I had to face the fact that Jehovah's Witnesses are all about the judgment of others, and even each other. Their constant sizing up of each other's spiritual strengths and spiritual weaknesses is simply reprehensible. Their disdain of everyone else who is not a witness, disgusting. Their works-based religion is impossible to fulfill without self-reproach and trepidation. Neither do they really love, not others, not even each other. Their so-called love is based on merit only. If you do what they like, they'll put up with you. If not, they'll drop you without hesitation and not feel a thing about it. I'm sorry to say it, but this kind of behavior is simply not love. When I was a witness, I was just like them too, but I couldn't see that what I was doing was wrong. As a rule, Jehovah's Witnesses simply can't see this about themselves in the same way a person with bad body odor usually can't smell themselves. By the time I finally broke free of their mentality, I was nearing middle age. I then experienced for the first time in my life what it felt like to really like people in general, and then to even love some of them individually without the judgmental attitude I had always possessed that comes with the territory of being a Jehovah's Witness. After decades of witnessing the witnesses, I could now see the truth about the truth. Then, for the first time in my life, I was able to have a fulfilling, loving, and peaceful marriage. For the first time in my life, I gained friends who loved me back unconditionally. For the first time in my life, I was truly happy and not living in daily guilt. To my delight and amazement, I found that my real journey to God's house was just beginning. But that's another story. Brock Talon. So this will conclude this book. I thank you for putting up with all of these chapters of my musings on this book. I really did enjoy it. So Brock, thank you for this book. And to those who are listening, please go buy it. You can get it on Amazon.com on different formats. I enjoyed the Kindle format. But anyways, this is going to conclude this book. Good night, folks.